Good afternoon, everyone. It's John Gator coming to you live from Wellington, and we're to just having the opportunity to chat with you guys again. And today is the 19th of July, so we've got a lot. I had a busy week this last week with board meetings and stuff to talk about, so I'm excited to share with you guys some of that. And so, just to walk you through a little bit of what our agenda again is for today, we are going to be having an opportunity to talk about the prior board meeting that happened this last Tuesday. And then we also had a special meeting of the liquor board for the town of Wellington to Wednesday. So, I'll cover that as well. And then we do have a board work session that is coming up this coming Tuesday. So, that would be Tuesday, let me have the right date here, the 21st of July. So, and I do believe, I'm not 100% on whether that's going to be Zoom or whether that's going to be um, in person yet. I know we've had a bunch of changes lately, so I don't know for sure what that will be. But so let's go ahead, and as usual, I do always like to remind you guys, I enjoy this opportunity to sit and chat with you and to share with you some of the things that are happening here in the town. But just as a reminder, anything that I do share, even though I am a trustee for the town of Wellington, anything I do share is my personal opinion. I don't speak for the town. I don't speak for the rest of the board of trustees. I only speak for myself. So just do always like to share that with people. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to share those. I'm going to throw those into the chat and let me know any questions that you have. So with that, we'll go ahead and get right into this. I'm going to start with the agenda from last week's board meeting. All right. So we did have, in the community participation, we did actually have a presentation regarding the water rates. And we did get some updates from our finance director, Tyler Sexton, who's our interim finance director, giving us some updates in regards to what is happening with what we're looking at right now with the changes to the water utility rates. And so if you weren't able to make it on Tuesday, this is something that the Board of Trustees has actually been discussing since before I got elected. This has been an ongoing concern, an issue that the board has been dealing with and working through. And we've been looking at models since I think the second or third board meeting that I was a part of. And we've been looking at some different options and different models. And the board has gone back to town staff to say, well, can we look at some different options here? And primarily the concern has really been, we need to find a way that we can do this in such a way that we can try to make this as easy to work with as possible for the members of the public. And then another big thing has been making sure that we have a large amount of public communication as well as opportunity for public comment to be had before these changes do come into place. And so within this presentation, I would definitely recommend that you guys go and view this. Information is on the board packet. There was a presentation included that went through 3 different scenarios and the pros and cons of those different scenarios and what we'd be looking at with each scenario and the changes that would fall into place with that. And then at the bottom, there is a communications timeline. So right now, the thought process, and I say thought process to be very clear, no decision has been made yet, but the thought process is to try and get to the point where these changes are able to go into effect at the beginning of October. And so what the idea is in the 1st of July, we'll have a utility bill insert survey link. They'll also be sending that out via social media and utility billing link. Survey will be available at Town Hall, at the post office, as well as the annex. And for us to gather information from the public. Somewhere in this period as well, between August, September, we are also going to work to have some form of a town hall that is dedicated specifically to this water issue. So some type of a meeting which is really dedicated to giving the citizens an opportunity to share, to talk, ask questions, and go do things like that. Then in September, the staff is going to work with the board and let them know, here's what we're looking at, here's what we received from the citizens of the town, and then that gives them basically 2 weeks, the staff and the board, 2 weeks to kind of work together. Okay, how can we incorporate this? What is the best plan for moving forward? leading to the board approving those rates potentially. Again, clarification on potentially. None of this is set in stone yet. Potentially approving rates on the 22nd of September that would go into effect as of the 1st of October. So I know that there's a lot that goes into this, and there are a lot of questions, and legitimately there should be. And I think there was a lot of really great conversation that was had. I know there were some very specific questions that were asked that we had asked the town staff to kind of collect answers to those, because some of those were actually fairly in-depth questions that we want to make sure get more than just a on the surface answer, that we're actually able to give answers to that. So I would be on the lookout, and that's part of what they said is, along with the survey, their hope is to have answers to a lot of these questions that were asked as to why are these changes being made, why now, and what does that mean. So would just encourage you guys to just keep your eyes open on that, and that will be upcoming. So again, you could review that in the board packet from last week. I've also, as soon as I know how we can go back and review the videos from the prior meetings, I will also try to get that information out to you guys as well, because that is something that I have requested that we be able to get out to the public as well, so they can actually hear some of the commentary that happened. So that was the water utility rate. That was a presentation. And then following that, we did also get an update by Wellington Fire Protection District regarding the house fire that happened here in Wellington. I'm very excited again to share. I know I told you guys last week it was encouraging to see the amount of help that had come from the community to those members that did lose their house and were put out by this fire. And just to see that has continued to a huge level, the amount of support that has been raised by our community, just heartwarming. So I really want to just say phenomenal job to all of you who are part of this community and help make that happen. And then on the consent agenda, this did actually get pulled off at my request. I did have some questions regarding the approval for the conditional annexation of Country Lane Acres. And this was an item where, just because of COVID and some other situations, this had been approved, and that they were not able to get everything finished for the annexation when the time frame that was initially put on it was going to run out, I believe, a few days ago. And so the board was asked to approve an extension that would give them additional 6 months to finalize that process. So we did have discussion on that as to whether it's something we should do or should not do. I know that there was a lot of good discussion had by all of the trustees from various different points. Ultimately, that was approved by the board to allow that approval extension that had been already put in place by the previous board. And then for action items, we did approve the contracts for Old Town street repair. I know this is a question a lot of people have asked me, is can we get something done about a lot of these potholes, problems with sidewalks, gaps in the hole, problems with asphalt, things like that. So it's very exciting to see that that is coming together here. We're able to approve that. Looks like we've got some good companies that are going to come in and do this work, and our engineering team did a great job of getting it together. And so that is moving forward, and ideally towards end of summer, beginning of fall, we should start seeing some of these projects underway and potentially finished. So that was the street repair. Item number 2 was resolution appointing a town clerk. So the town did hire a town clerk probably 3 weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't remember the exact date. But she's actually been working on getting systems in place and running meetings and making things go smoother, and she's been doing a great job so far. And this was just a resolution by the board to officially appoint her as the town clerk, because that is one of the positions within the town that is appointed by the board of trustees. And then the resolution 26-2020, that was the amended hours of outdoor watering. This was a bunch of amendments that were requested. The town had kind of put them in place already and sent that out. Several of the Board of Trustees felt that we did need to actually have a specific amendment to the resolution and to fix it to include those things, so there was not any gap or room left open for interpretation. So that was something that was, we had some discussion around that. We did request that things cleaned up a little bit. There were some things that were missing or weren't in there quite properly, so we did work to get those with town staff to get that cleaned up, and that was approved. And I know that there are a lot of concerns around extending the hours for those who may not want to be out as late trying to water, as well as having the opportunity to make sure that if you have new sod, vegetable garden, or newly seeded lawns, that those don't die because they can't be watered. So we did put some exceptions into place for those specific things as well. And so you can also view that. And then we did quickly hop into our liquor license renewal, but because that is a quasi-judicial issue, this has to be done in person. So we went into the meeting, voted to postpone the liquor license review board to the following day, which was Wednesday, where the Board of Trustees did meet in person and have that meeting, which I'll cover that in just a moment. Following that, we did go into town reports. We did get an update from the town administrator on the executive search firm for town administrator, or interim town administrator gave us an update. That was a question that I have been asked a few times is, when is the town going to actually do something about getting a new town administrator? We actually did approve in that section there for our town staff to move forward with pursuing a contract with one specific firm. The entire Board of Trustees had the opportunity to go through and rate, I believe it was 8 different firms that did give us a bid to do the search for hiring a town administrator. And we gave scores to each one based on various different things as we looked through their presentations, how we felt they scored. And then based on the scoring from that scale, that ranked the companies. And so we did come up with one company that we chose to move forward. So that they'll be working on getting a contract put together for that. And then I believe that will come back to the board to be approved. Then moving into staff communications, we did have a lengthy discussion around the bulk water station update. I know this is a question that multiple citizens reached out to myself and other members of the board and of the town staff with a lot of concerns around what had been going on with that. And so we were able to work together with town staff to get that put on the agenda for this meeting. And the mayor was happy to open things up for public comment and really allow that opportunity for public to really feel that they were heard. I know for myself specifically, I have about let me actually go back down here. 2 pages worth of notes based off of the comments that came in from the public on that were very specific to the issues and concerns that they had. So I very much appreciate the members of the public taking the time to really come out and share with the board their concerns and the things that they see that they'd like to see addressed, or that they really feel that we can do better. And the good news is we were able to have some conversation with town staff. Again, we were waiting for a broken part that was broken. The good news update is that part came in, the bulk water dispenser was repaired, and it has been put back online. We do have a limitation on the hours of operation. I believe currently those hours of operation are either, I think it's 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I believe are the hours of operation. I could be wrong. I would highly recommend. Actually, let's go here. You can actually check on the town website. There you go, right there. Bulk water station is open, and it's 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So those are the new hours of operation. That was part of what we did have the request to do, was to reduce those hours of operations to address some of the concerns just with the peak use of water times. We did also at this point get an update on the water plant, where we are at in water usage, and we have been running at and above capacity multiple times, which was definitely a concern as we're continuing to get into those hotter summer months. So the concern that led to putting the watering restrictions in place had a lot to do with running our water plant at capacity, and we are seeing that to continue to be a trend where we're having to run that plant at capacity quite commonly, and that's generally not a good thing. I know that one of the concerns that several citizens did voice was, how do we, what is the town doing to address this, and really, why is this a problem, or why aren't we doing something to upgrade the water plant that it's really behind? And I just want to make sure that I communicate very clearly that this is something that the town staff and the Board of Trustees have been working on for multiple years. I know our prior Board of Trustees, and even I think the board before that, did put extensive work into getting this project underway. And in this case, where we're talking about an over $20 million project, that's not something you can just throw a set of plans together and get it in construction in a week and a half or 2 weeks. Realistically, this is a process that really should have been started, probably 8 to 10 years ago, but it was not. And so we are in the place where that did get started in the last couple of years. We did run into some challenges more recently within the last year or two that have required, in some cases, in areas, a complete rework. And I know our town staff has been doing a phenomenal job of working through that, as well as the Board of Trustees. And the mayor did mention several things that the board is doing to address issues of rising water costs, looking at different sourcing options, as well as seeing what we can do to get this plant up and functional and moving. And then our town staff has been doing a phenomenal job in finding ways that they can reuse different portions of water to help um, maximize the amount of potable drinking water that we have. They found some areas in just town operations that we can use some of the other water that's not our potable drinking water, and that's actually saved us quite a bit of drinkable potable water. So I am very grateful, and just want to let you guys know this is an incredibly huge concern, and it really is a top priority for the Board of Trustees as well as town staff. That being said, there is only so fast that we can, because there's a lot of moving pieces that we have to be coordinating with, be it contractors, engineers, Colorado Department of Health, water boards, things like that, because it's not something that we can just pull together. We have to have everything has to go through. There are certain restrictions that are in place around that. So just please keep up to, ask questions as you have them, but do know this is something that is a very high priority for the board and for your town. But I did want to highlight with the bulk water station, I really do appreciate the citizens taking the time to come out and share their concerns with the Board of Trustees. And I know for myself, it really helped me to better understand some of the areas that I might not have had as good of an understanding. But at the same time, it also allowed for us to really kind of try and take an account and talk with town staff in regards to the concerns that were brought up. And I know that there's been discussion about, can we look at maybe upgrading the bulk water dispenser and doing some other things differently, find some ways to run it better to make sure it's being limited to the residential use and not construction use. So there's a lot of different things that we're looking at that will really be working to try and make sure that we can keep this functional. But for the moment, I am very glad to see that we were able to get that reopened. As it stands right now, that is up and running for those of you who buy on that for your household water. So I'm very glad to see that. We didn't have really much in the way of this Laramie County Sheriff's report. We did have that, so that's attached if you wanted to look through that. And then we did have some board notes for myself and Trustee Kenny on just thanking town staff for a lot of the work that they've done. I know, especially with getting outdoor seating put in place, as Trustee Kenny mentioned. And then for myself, I noticed that there was a great opportunity for roads being fixed, and there were some specific potholes that I've noticed on 6th Street that I noticed the other day were filled. And so just thanking the town staff for the work they've done there. Dennis Hipsag says, any thoughts on non-potable bulk dispenser for commercial users and stock waters that don't require treated water? Save on the bottleneck of the town's current ability to treat water. Dennis, that is a great question. I have no idea how feasible or hard that is, but that's definitely a question I can reach out to our Public Works Director and see if there's any way that we could do that, or if we have a spot that would be possible, because that would I'm assuming that would be something that could be used for construction water, as well as potentially if that could be used for livestock and things like that. So great question, Dennis. I will reach out to our Public Works Director and see, because you make a great point that could help to alleviate some of that concern if we do have a significant amount that is being used for uses that could be used for non-potable. So great question, and I'll follow up with you once I get an answer back on that, whether it's something. So with that, if you guys have any other questions from this board meeting that we had last week, please go and throw those in chat. I am going to review our Friday meeting real quickly, so if you do have questions, I will come back to them. But our Wednesday meeting. And so, as I mentioned earlier, our liquor board meeting was pushed back till we had an in-person meeting. So this was held at the Leeper Center at 4:00 p.m. on July 15th. And it was a liquor license review for Sol de Jalisco Mexican restaurant. They did put in a request to expand onto their back porch. And so what the request was is to expand that area for them to utilize for liquor licensing, so that they can actually utilize that outdoor seating to accommodate some of the now requirements we have on limitations, by the health department for restaurants. And so we were able to prove that. The board was very excited. We saw they had all the plans and everything together. I actually saw them cleaning it up the other day before we even had that, getting it ready. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to actually go and eat on that patio of theirs. So that was approved by the board. And so that did get sent out to the state board. So as far as I know, they are open for business on their patio. So again, this is something that I'm excited to see. that was a request that was made of the board and the town is, can we support some of our businesses that are struggling because of COVID-19? And one of the ways that we were able to do that was to open up additional areas for them, allow them to use that, and as well as getting some additional seating and tables. The board approved that about a month ago, I believe, to have additional seating areas. So I'm very glad to see that being used at multiple places around town, and I'm looking to more as they come. All right, so we'll move on to our board work session that is coming up this next week. So just a reminder to everyone as to how the board meetings work. And so you do have on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, we do have a regular board meeting. And this is where the board is making decisions or voting on policy, approving things, etc. Those are also the meetings where there's generally opportunity for public comment. So there is a section set aside at the beginning for you to come in and share public comment. There's an opportunity on each of the action items for you as well. You share public comment and really a chance for you to interact with the board of trustees as well. With the work session, what was done is there was a third meeting added on third Tuesday of every month, which is really designed, it is still a public meeting, so I'm very clear about it. You're still welcome to come, but it really is designed as an opportunity for town staff and the board of trustees to work out some of the details and to really iron out some of the concerns, some of the ideas that we're looking at, whether or not it's something we even want to consider or what that's going to look like. So the idea is that instead of spending 5 hours on our normal Tuesday meeting trying to work through all of these issues, we separate out a special meeting and then we have that opportunity to talk back and forth. So as a general rule, there's not public comment in these work sessions. That is at the mayor's discretion, so he can always obviously choose to acknowledge public comment. But as a general rule, because the board is not making any decisions, there's not generally public comment at those. And it is generally a less formal meeting, meaning it's an opportunity for us to just ask questions, to try and figure out ideas so that we can sort through what's going to work, what's not going to work, so we can finally get to a place where we're confident or comfortable that when we come back, we've got an idea that we know the direction that we want to go, and then we can discuss whether it's a good or bad idea when we do get to that point of actually bring it up at a board meeting for approval. But the big thing to note with a board work session, unless it is called to be a special meeting, which we did have happen during the beginning of COVID, and that has to happen at least 24 hours prior to the meeting, there will be no decisions being made at the work session. So we can talk about things, we can come up with ideas, we can have discussion on it, we can say, yes, we want to hear this at a board meeting for a vote, or we can say, no, we're not ready for that, or go get more information. That's where a lot of the discussion on the water rates has been in work sessions, but there are no decisions made in a work session. So just to kind of clarify that, and as I mentioned, I believe this is going to be held on Zoom. So again, if you wanted to, you're welcome to tune in and kind of listen in and hear some of that discussion that does go on behind the scenes. And as you can see here, the items for discussion is the water treatment plant expansion project. So for those of you who have been wondering, what is the status of the water treatment plant? What's going on? Where are we at? What is our timeline? This is the meeting you want to come to because that's what we're going to be talking about. We do also have a wastewater treatment plan master plan update. And so similar as we're doing a project right now to update our water plant, we are going to have to do the same thing for our wastewater plant in the not too distant future. So that's something, again, trying to start that process ahead of time before we have to make sure that that's done. There will also be discussion around 2021 budget for staffing. We're going to be having an open discussion between the staff and the board in regards to some positions that potentially maybe that the staff feel would be beneficial to add. So we're going to have that conversation between board and between staff to kind of talk about that and whether board is comfortable with including that into our budget for 2021. And then we're also going to be having a discussion around hiring an economic development services company. And so we did have our economic development director take another position a couple of months back. And that's an area that we have had several trustees have said this is very important that we do have someone in this role. So we'll be having a discussion about a company that could fill that role in the interim until we do have a full-time town administrator, not full-time, but a dedicated town administrator, not an interim. Ms. Hodling is serving excellently. She's doing an amazing job, but she is serving in an interim capacity. So we do need to have someone who is a full-time dedicated town administrator. And so once we have that person, most likely we would then work to go and hire that position back. But in the meantime, we do not want to just let things go to waste. We had a lot of great work that was done by our prior economic development director. We do want to make sure we're able to keep with that. So we'll be having a discussion around that. And then we are going to also be having a discussion in the raw water cash and lieu. So this is actually a discussion that has been had several times, and that's regarding ongoing development and the need for water and the challenges that do come in place with water. And so part of the discussion has been, should we adjust how things have happened where the town does have a policy of requiring water to be brought in for development, but there has been an opportunity or option where people could do cash in lieu of actual water rights. And so there's going to be some discussion in that in regards to what that could look like or what that should look like. And so there's not a ton to go through on this packet. There is some information on the staffing, so you can actually look and see what some of the staffing requests are like, and what we're potentially looking at bringing on in 2021 or 2022. So you'll see highlighted in light green or blue. I'm slightly colorblind, so it could be a different color. But you'll see those 2021 are looking at people to come in for 2021. 2022 would be in that orange color, so it does highlight those areas that would be higher potentially. And there's some more information on that below. Again, I would recommend coming to hear that discussion. And then you can also see the contract for the economic development services there as well. So with that, I will answer any questions that you guys might have. I'd be happy to take questions and answer those. I do want to go into a couple of just conversations that I've had, but if you guys do have questions, I do want to let those do the best I can to answer those. So as far as some of the conversations that I have had, a lot of things recently have been geared specifically around the development as well as water, in that the balance of the development and of water, and what does that look like. And I've had some very encouraging conversations with town staff and the board as well, and different members of the board. And I think that a lot of us do realize that there are a lot of things that we're trying to figure out and that we are concerned about. And we're trying to find that balancing act. We are in an exciting position where Wellington is, I personally think, very well positioned to be in a very good place if we can do the right things in the next 3 to 5 years. Make good decisions now, we can set the right processes in place. I think we're going to be able to see our infrastructure get into a much better place. I think we're going to be able to see more of the businesses and more of that. I know a lot of people have said, I wish that we had more businesses. I wish I didn't have to go to Fort Collins for all of my shopping. We're not going to see that change completely to where you never have to go to Fort Collins again. But I think we are in a great position over the next 5 to 10 years to see a lot more of commercial come in, to see a lot of our balance shift away from the need for development, to see more opportunity for that commercial and more of that business growth, so that we can utilize more of our funds as just citizens here within the town. The challenge is we have to get there, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. We are, as I've mentioned before, we're dealing with some issues that potentially should have been addressed, a good 5 to 10 years ago. And the bottom line is, I can sit here and complain all day that it wasn't addressed, but it wasn't. So whether I like it or not, whether I complain or not, we are faced with the challenges that we are faced with today. And I think that if we do good work and we work our way through those challenges, I think that our town is really place. I think we have an amazing community here. If you didn't think that before, I would just challenge you to look at what happened over this last week with these two families that one completely lost their home and the other had theirs pretty severely damaged. And to me, that's just an amazing community to be a part of. And so I think we have an amazing town. We have an amazing community. And I am looking forward to the opportunity to really work through some of these issues that we have and to come out the other side. And I think it'll be great to be a part of this town that's not facing all those challenges, and that we can again set that precedent, hopefully, that these decisions are made in the future moving forward with that eye to next 20 to 25 years, so that the next time that these things need to happen, it's done well in advance. So with that, I don't see any questions in the comments. I do appreciate you guys being a part of this. I do encourage you to engage with the Board of Trustees, engage with your town staff, and really to help keep us up to date and up to speed on the things that you think are important. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. You guys have a great rest of your Sunday, and I will see you all next week.